He's Tony. I'm Mike, and this is week 8 of the Action Bowl. Week 8, our last matchup in our first round of the Action Bowl.
Thank you. I'm glad one of us could get that out. So we have Mel Gibson facing off against Chow Yun-Fat. Mike is going to be drawing for Mel Gibson. I'm going to be drawing for Chow Yun-Fat. I'm excited to see where this one's going to go. And
all right, what do we get? Did Mel Gibson have bad action movies?
Couple.
I guess we'll find out. Well, this is certainly not one of them. The OG Lethal Weapon. Point at the main camera.
It's all good. It's all good.
So then, drawing for Chow Yun-Fat,
Fat.
we got Tony here, and
I'm excited. I have a couple of ones that I'm hoping I draw. So this,
you can do it.
I got it. I got it. Oh, we are watching A Better Tomorrow. And I am glad that we drew this film.
I have never heard of this movie. Tell me about this.
Well, this is a John Woo film
Okay.
back when, before John Woo came over to Hollywood. So this is an old school Hong Kong film.
Okay.
You know what? The less you know going into this, I think the more you're going to enjoy this one.
Okay.
So I don't want to give anything away, but I'm just going to say that
So
you're
this
going
could potentially be a tight race.
This is actually, I'm going to tell you, my takeaway on this one is that this is going to be a very tight matchup. So I'm
all right.
excited
I'm
for this
excited
one.
now, too.
It's after the last couple weeks, I'm glad that we actually got to watch a quality film this week. So,
All right.
so our commentary and our scores are coming up next. Stay tuned. So week 8 of the Action Bowl, the final week of round 1, sees Mel Gibson facing off against Chow Yun-Fat. Two action drama heavyweights here.
Yes, indeed.
Who do we want to talk about first?
Let's start with Mel Gibson first.
All right, well, let's start with Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson drew Lethal Weapon, which is considered a classic, and it's not really hard to see why. Directed by Richard Donner, who brought us the original Superman movie. Written by Shane Black.
Yeah.
And again, starring Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, both at the absolute peak of their fame. This is Mel Gibson coming right off of, well, he'd already done The Road Warrior.
Oh, this is not Mel Gibson's peak. No.
When would you say his peak
Not
was?
even close.
When
no.
would you say this?
No.
No?
Peak would probably be like Patriot or something like that. He was still cranking out hits. This was before.
This is before he started down the downward slide.
before marriage was on the rocks, and so was his drinking and his anti-Semitic comments.
This is back when Mel Gibson was still likable. So.
Yeah, still very likable. I don't know. I don't mind him now. He's done some decent movies recently. I think he redeemed himself.
I will say, I'm not going to poo-poo on him. It's just if Mel Gibson is in it, I'm not like excited to see it, but I'll watch it. I'll definitely watch it. And I got to be honest, going back and watching this one, it's aged fairly well.
Oh, incredibly well. I was expecting to go back and watch this like, it's not quite as good as I remember. But it is as good as I remember, and deservedly so. It is well written, it is well directed. Shane Black, he knows how to do buddy shit incredibly well.
Yes, absolutely.
Last night, I watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Shane Black written, Shane Black directed.
And he did The Nice Guys?
The Nice Guys,
and
another great one. But if there's two dudes in it, Shane Black's your man.
If one of them is a dude and one of them is a predator, skip it.
Yes.
But let's talk this. The action sequences are great.
Come on, honey. Come on, honey. It's a smoker. Bingo.
They write that line perfectly. They're well done. They're not over the top. They they draw attention to themselves without being ridiculous about it.
Yeah, right. Piece of cake. Now I'm happy. Just read him as right, and I'll stand over here being happy.
And so it doesn't shake the realism of what's going on in the film. The mystery, there's some hinky playtime with the mystery, how they actually stumble onto the next set of clues, stuff like that.
It was bad.
Like that? Exactly like that?
Mm-hmm. I saw it good.
Roger, that's a Special Forces tattoo.
Ah, that's pretty fucking thin.
That's very thin.
What the hell? Thin's my middle name.
Yeah, your wife's cooking, I'm not surprised.
Sure.
But it's forgivable. It is absolutely forgivable on that one.
It's not about the story anyway. It's about the relationship between Riggs and Martok.
Murtaugh. Yeah.
Murtaugh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't, you say Martok all the time.
Hail Bartok, leader of the Empire.
So, like, I'm sorry, it's not Klingon in this thing, but it happens. But again, it's about the relationship between the two.
Oh, yeah,
and Shane Black nails it. Richard Donner in his directing nails it. Them as actors nail it, and they do it so well.
You really like my wife's cooking?
No.
And more importantly than that, Gary Busey
Oh.
is a punchline now, but I mean, he comes off as genuinely like intimidating and scary in this film.
Yes.
Your left arm, please.
Oh, I ain't gone. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Jesus.
And I would have liked to have seen more stuff like this from Gary Busey back in the day, but I can't think of anything else that he did where he actually ever achieved this level of
Menace.
Menace is the exact word.
Yeah.
It is the perfect word for this. He is genuinely menacing. And then the guy, the General McAllister, who was the head of Shadow Company, who's Gary Busey's boss in this movie, he comes off as kind of terrifying.
They are loyal to me.
Oh, bullshit.
Do you smoke?
What the hell has that got to do with anything? Do I smoke?
Do you smoke?
Yeah.
And it's funny because he's a sitcom dad.
So, you people are just complete weirdos, is that it?
See, it didn't quite work for me, his role, but again, that's why you have Mr. Joshua there, you know, to do that role for him.
So I got one question I got to ask about this. He's referred to as Mr. Joshua by General McAllister throughout the film, but when Mel Gibson and them face off at the end, he asks Jack if he wants a shot at the title.
What do you say, Jack? Would you like a shot at the title? Don't mind if I do.
They know each other, but he says, "What about it, Jack? You want a shot at the title?" And I was always wondering, was that slang Jack? Like, you know, that's the facts, Jack. Or, like, does he actually know him and his name is actually Jack? Or his nickname is Jack, but his real name is Joshua, and because it's a pseudo-military organization, they refer to him as Mr. Joshua. Or is his name Jack Joshua?
I don't know. I didn't bother to look in the credits to actually see that. I just assumed Jack was just, you know, just slang, like, hey, Jack.
Asking the important questions here on the Action Ball. Was there anything that didn't work for you on this one?
Not really, to be honest. No, actually, that's a lie. That is a lie. Actually, the end fight scene was just kind of thrown in for like no real apparent reason.
Yeah, come on. Come on.
Yeah, they needed a conclusion that was satisfying, that pleased audiences. Not, I guess taking him off in cuffs wouldn't have been as fun as Mel Gibson and Gary Busey beating the shit out of each other.
Because there's not enough backstory to know if there's a personal beef with them or not.
Yeah.
That's never established in the movie, so it just seemed kind of random, out of nowhere. I was like, they're getting ready to scrap. It's like, wait a second, there's nothing really to drive this, you know, this confrontation. It just happens for the sake of a fight.
The only line of dialogue that I can think of is when Mel Gibson is doing his sniper bit, and then General McAllister, like, you know, puts the gun to the back of his head. When they're walking through and General McAllister is marching him, Mel Gibson says,
Yeah, I ran into some of those Shadow Company pussies in Saigon in about '69. You did you?
So he obviously knows McAllister. He knows some of the Shadow Company people, and I always assumed that Gary Busey's character was one of those.
Yeah, but again, there's not enough meat there to really warrant the fight.
Yeah.
Other than just the fact, hey, we need like you said, a dramatic ending to sell it.
Yes, and let's be honest, that dramatic ending, I don't care who you are. If you're a cop and you have a suspect that you have detained and you decide it's a good idea for him and another cop to just beat the crap out of each other on your front lawn, you're probably going to be brought up on charges.
Sergeant Riggs' arrest. I'll take full responsibility. The son of a bitch just killed 2 of our men.
Well, they shot Mr. Joshua. They couldn't just let it go that he had his ass beat. They had to actually have him try to pull the gun.
He drew his weapon.
He drew one of the cops arrested weapon.
Well, he drew a weapon, so therefore he deserved to get shot. It's justified.
No, I'm not saying, but like I said,
don't let him try to pull this bullshit, or police brutality.
No, I'm not trying to pull police brutality. I'm just saying that from a directing standpoint, legitimately, it was already concluded. He had already beat his ass. He'd already tapped out. So it was really time for them to just throw him in cuffs. But I guess he was the bad guy. He needed to pay. And the other thing, Michael Hunsaker.
Michael Hunsaker?
Michael Hunsaker was the guy that was shot. Yeah. And you'll recognize him from a multitude of John Carpenter films. The Fog, They Live,
Halloween
3. So yeah, he's all over there, but you might not, you're not used to him playing this kind of a character.
Please, I know you can do it. Just find and kill them.
Because one thing I totally forgot was the very beginning, that opening scene where the girl, commits suicide.
Yes.
I forgot all about it. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. It's like, what is this? I'm like, oh, geez, I forgot all about this. This is what springboards the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that what's his name again?
Michael Hunsaker?
Yeah, it's such a scumbag that, that sweet hero money is worth more than my daughter's life. Yeah.
Well, he's got another daughter, and they can't protect her. Yeah, it's.
I got backup daughters, all good. Keep that hero money coming in, baby.
She's tainted. She's tainted. So.
But yeah, the story is, there's some, loopholes in there.
Yeah.
Some kind of things are kind of hokey, but again, it's just the buddy drama is so damn good.
Serviceable mystery for an action film. That's
really
what it
that's
boils
but
down
you really get into the characters themselves. Like, you really get to know Mel Gibson. You really get to know
Danny Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover.
Baby, what's this on my tie?
That is an ugly spot.
Thanks.
And their backstories and that, and I love the family dynamic that goes on there too. Is very heartfelt and
And
genuine.
the young daughter crush.
Mr. Riggs, would you like that tart?
Thank you. Yeah, call me Martin.
Martin.
This is Mr. Riggs.
So,
yes, that was good too.
So,
but yeah, it's well, we'll see my scores in a second. I think they're pretty well justified.
Well, yeah. Well, let's talk your scores. Let's get down to it.
So, plot, gave it an 8. It's just, again, it's all about the relationship. Shane Black does a great job with the story and the script, establishing that. The actors did a really good job
This
there.
is the movie that set the standard
Yes,
for
it did.
buddy cops. Like, they don't get along at first, and then they work it out over the course of a case.
You ever met anybody you didn't kill?
Well, I haven't killed you yet.
Before this, there wasn't really a whole lot like this, but this...
The closest you had was 48 Hours, which did a really good job establishing as a buddy duo.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this cemented it in stone, and everything just comes, is, like I said, this is the bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so everything is judged off that.
So,
style of 7. It's Richard Donner. The man knows how to direct stuff and knows how to put things together. I mean, he convinced you a man could fly.
You don't got to sell me on this.
Right. So there's that. Fun. It's an 8 all day long. Everything's there you need there to be there in an action buddy cop thing. There's good drama. There's plenty of good humor. There's plenty of action. Yeah. I mean.
So total score of?
Let's see. This is a total of. I'm sorry, I didn't do the math. 23.
23. That is high praise. That is high praise.
Remarks like that will not get you invited to Christmas dinner.
My luck's changing for the better every day.
All right. So that's my scores for Lethal Weapon. My scores are really in line with Mike's scores on this one. For Lethal Weapon, for the plot, I gave it a 6. And as reason I gave it a 6 is part of it is the fact that buddy cop film been around forever. It's murder mystery. They're two guys that work out their differences over the course of an investigation and realize that they complete each other. It's the Jerry Maguire of cop movies.
It's the peanut butter and jelly. The chocolate to your peanut butter. It just goes peas and carrots.
The kit to your cat.
That's right. We can keep going.
So yeah. But for the style, I gave it an 8. And I gave it an 8 because
so.
it is a handled by it's Richard Donner.
Yes.
I mean, and again, for the small failings of the film, and there are a couple things that I have issues with in the film, which is why it's not higher than an 8. But two things that have always bothered me about Lethal Weapon. Number one is the girl jumps out the window and you see from inside the car where her body hits the actual car. And it's towards the front and near the pillar on that. But then when they flash back outside, she's laying on the top of the car and she's posed like a fashion model on that. And don't get me wrong, she's gorgeous. And it's a beautiful shot, but it has always bothered me that you can clearly tell that is not where she hit the car. The other thing that I have a problem with is when Riggs goes outside and he is trying to talk to Jumper down off the roof, and they switch to slow motion, you can clearly see the two stunt guys grab each other's hands and hold them on the way down, that they're not actually handcuffed together. And I know that we talked about this, that, it probably had to do with safety, and you're absolutely correct on that one, but there is a prop department. They could have made a breakaway set of handcuffs so that neither one of them dragged the other one off the building or stuff like that. But
well, at least Thelma and Louise did, when they drove. They held the hands, as they drove off the cliff.
Yeah, so it was Riggs and his new beau from the Office Christmas party but it's the other thing, the fact that they showed it in slow motion and nobody said you can clearly see they're not handcuffed. That's the part that bothered me. If it had been in regular time, regular speed, you never would have noticed it. Yeah. But because it was in slow motion and because they chose to show it in slow motion, I was just like, that ain't right. So, but
what was those 80s and the slow-mo jumps? We had it there. We had that with Rambo. I'm sure if we really pay that close attention, probably every single jump, anything falling from a height is slowed down. Like even we haven't reviewed it yet, but I'm sure. No, wait. Oh, what's his name? Is gone, isn't he? Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis is eliminated as of last week. Yeah,
so we'll never see what's his name fall from the tower.
Hans Gruber. Yeah.
Hans Gruber.
Okay, well, there's a big difference. But we did see Arnold Schwarzenegger reenact that exact same shot in the first week of the Action Bowl in Last Action Hero.
Yes, we did.
So, but I think the reason that they did it was because when you actually have people jumping off of a building, you want people to see it. You want them to see as much of it as possible. Nowadays, because most of it is done on a green screen with a stunt mat, they want it to be over as quickly as possible because the longer you're staring at it, the more likely it is you're going to go, I can see matte lines on that. And I really do think that's why it was such a thing back then that they did it in slow-mo versus now where they actually show it at normal speed. Yeah. And, again, I'm nitpicking. I know I'm nitpicking on this one. And for the fun, I gave this one an 8. It is a blast. So. It is a fun movie. It is a damn entertaining movie. It is a damn engaging movie. It's got some heavy themes in it. It's got, a cop that wants to kill himself because his wife died in a car accident 11 months prior to that, and he's working through that. And there are several times where he's really attempting self-harm in a really convincing and messed up kind of way. So it taints it a little bit, but it doesn't overshadow just how damn enjoyable this film really is. So for me, my score on this one is a 22.
Yeah, we're right there.
Yeah, we're right in the same ballpark on that. Coming up next is Chow Yun-Fat, A Better Tomorrow. Stay tuned. So week 8 sees Chow Yun-Fat facing off against Mel Gibson, and Chow Yun-Fat brought the film that introduced Gun Fu and John Woo and everything else to American audiences, A Better Tomorrow.
This really isn't a Chow Yun-Fat vehicle. He's in it, but he's not the main star in it. The other guy is. I don't remember his name.
Oh, hi, Tom. How are you?
Hi, Russ.
Hi.
The non-action hero.
The non-action hero is in it. So this is almost a Cynthia Rothrock type of scenario.
a little bit. He's more prominent in there. There's three main characters, and it's trying to follow all three of them. And I will say this: he does get more screen time than the brother that's the cop.
Yeah, but yeah, it is. But he's more pivotal in this than Cynthia Rothrock was in her film. So I'll let this one slide. I'm not going to raise such a stink with this.
And the other thing is that the action sequences, and every action sequence in this film, he is featured front and center on all of them.
Yes, he is.
So,
he's got some great scenes in there too. That revenge shootout is flipping amazing. Where he's hiding he's like setting up the scenes. He's putting the guns in the flower pots and stuff, and he goes in there, lights the motherfuckers up, and he's walking out just grabbing guns, and boom, boom, boom. I mean. It's glorious. Yes, it's a chef's kiss.
And that was the first time that scene right there is the reason why John Woo was exported or imported to America after the Hong Kong film. He did several more films in Hong Kong, but that was the one that people like stood up and said, "Whoa, never seen anything like that before." That was really cool. And then you have the shootout at the end, which is every bit as entertaining and engaging and brutal looking.
Very cool. Every scene of action in here, where it's a gunfight or a fisticuff of some kind or another, is absolutely brutal and vicious looking and very well choreographed. Now the connective tissue between all that shit, sometimes it's kind of sketch. It's very heavy-handed. It's some serious drama. At least they wanted to come across as serious drama. And it sticks most of it. Where I think it fails, though, is in its music choice.
Yes.
Oh my God, they want to be so Western, so fucking bad. Like... Oh, this is how they do it in America. This is the music they have. We gotta have the harmonica. It's gotta be very blues. It's gotta be very dramatic. No, God, no. If you was stuck with your own brand of music do you think is dramatic in Hong Kong? Would have worked a million times better.
I completely, that was actually one of the, when we get to the scoring on this, you're going to understand my scores a lot better, because as much as I love the action sequence and as much as I love the fact that you have one brother who's a criminal and one brother that's going to school to be a cop, and this takes place over several years, and then you have the guy that he's, the fun guy who actually he's a criminal and he enjoys being a criminal. He's the strong arm for a counterfeiter ring, and he like intimidating because of his skills with the guns. All that tracks so well. It's so well handled. And then you have the double cross, and you have the one brother that goes to jail, and the one brother goes to the academy, and he gets out, and he's a police. And then you have Mr. Funtime, who actually winds up being a homeless guy, and he's not
homeless, but he is very much at the bottom of the pecking order. He used to be like, up there, very high ranking, but now he's like,
He's cleaning windows.
He's treated like a dog.
Yes.
He's quite literally treated like a dog. I think he actually pets him at one point. Yeah, he throws money down, he pets him.
Yes,
So he's literally a dog.
Cleans the windows, he won't even hand him the money, he tosses it onto the ground in front of him, just to let him know how low his status is at that particular point.
Which is shitty too, because
he's the reason why that crime boss was able to rise into power, because he wiped out the competition.
Yeah.
So,
But because he's got a gimp leg, well, you're not worth that much to me anymore. Like for somehow his abilities are diminished, which they are absolutely not. And you'll find out in this movie they are not.
Yes. So, but So we're on the same page as far as this film goes. So, and it's such a dense film that it's kind of hard to go into all the nuance of it, but it is a film that you absolutely got to pay attention to. And you also have to realize that this was set in the 80s. Counterfeiting was a very different animal back then. And so you're seeing like all this really primitive graphic interface and these high definition discs that they used to store. They're optical drives. And no one uses anything like that anymore. You know, a USB drive or even a zip drive, but this was before all that where
this
it's
was
real tape. Yeah.
Reel to reel.
So, but as long as you know that. Now, I will also say this. There was a remake of this movie. And as much as I love this movie, I think the remake is actually better.
Okay.
And that's a hard thing to say, but...
Well, not really.
It updated what needed updating.
Yeah, because it is a very flawed film. And the scores will absolutely reflect that. But the story was very good. But it was very heavy-handed.
Yes.
And really beyond that, I don't have too many nitpicks beyond that. You know, it watches almost like a first-time director.
Yeah.
You know, here's a guy who knows stunts really well, who has a pretty decent script, but you know, takes too much influence from the West.
Yeah.
In its delivery of something.
And this was at a time when Hong Kong was actually still a, leased property to Britain, so it's a little bit different culture now, as opposed to, because in 2000 it reverted back to the control of mainland China, and or I don't remember the exact, I think it was 2000, 1999. Anyway, doesn't matter. But you're going to see a very different Hong Kong than what you're seeing in Hong Kong films today, just because that was a sign of the times, and it was very Western influence. Yeah. So it will all make sense. But let's talk some numbers here. I know you'd never watched a Chow Yun-Fat John Woo film before, so I'm intrigued.
I flip-flop back and forth between the plot. Because again, while it's not the greatest thing ever written, and you can see right here, it went from a 7, it fell down to a 6, but what saved it was the last little things that they did in the very end fight scene, the end shootout. There's two twists. I was like, that's what the point. Oh, that's worth another point. So it went from a 6 to 8. Because again, it caught me in the moment. So because when I watch these scenes, I score it as I'm watching them. So it's very in the moment feels. Where probably if I watched it later with a little reflection, probably would have bounced back down to maybe a 6 or a 7. But that's how I score them. So I scored it an 8. Style is a 7 all day long. For the reasons we said, the fight scenes are brutal. The shootouts are brutal. Very well executed. Very well choreographed. Again, if it's just, again, this I'm assuming it's probably like his first film, one of his first films.
Very early in his career. Very early in his career.
So there's some things that are a little bit of a miss, but man, 7 all day long. Fun. It is not a fun movie to watch. Again, while the fight scenes are great and all that's great, everything in between is slow, heavy, hammy, and schloggy. But it is what it is. So it's a 4.
We're more in sync than you realize on this one. So for me, the plot, I gave it an 8. It is absolutely an 8 all day long, I think. It's character-driven. Yeah. And you're right, it is a little heavy-handed. It has all the hallmarks of a very early draft, someone who hasn't written a lot of nuance. I don't think John Woo is really known for nuance. So
I'm sure he didn't write it either.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did actually write it?
John Woo wrote this.
Well, kudos to you, John Woo.
So, yeah. And let's just say this. This is one of those films that, it's early in his career, and you can see where, producers would see this and go, okay, this guy's got some style. He's got some promise. Mm-hmm. Let's keep an eye on this guy. We expect big things from him. For the style, I gave it a 6. And you're absolutely right. The gunfights are great. The production value as far as how it's shot and how it's edited together, that's all fine. But that music is so grating. It is
so bad.
It is the music from a bad made-for-TV movie.
It is.
It is. So, this is one of those films that you could take everything about this film, and they just did a digital restoration of this film. They should take this whole film, they should throw that soundtrack out, have it rescored and put it out, and it will improve this film vastly because that music, not only is it's loud, it's grating, it's repetitive, it's redundant, and it really kills a lot of great moments in the film. So, and for the fun, I gave it a 5. You're right. It's because of the heavy topics when you're seeing like these poor bastards just getting the crap beat out of them, or they're getting locked and put in jail and then being harassed by their jailer. It's not a ton of fun. And when you're seeing the dynamic between the two brothers, where one brother blames the other brother for their father's death, even though the father knew about the older brother and knew that he was a criminal and knew that, hey, you're going to have to walk away from all this because your brother might have to come after you one day. I'll deal with that when I deal with it. It's not a ton of fun for that family, but for me, it's a very watchable film. But I would love for John Woo to take this film and go, we're rescoring it, we're re-releasing it. It's the John Woo A Better Tomorrow Special Edition. But my total score on this film is a 19.
So we're tied.
So we are tied, and I'm just going to say this: even though the outcome of this should be fairly obvious at this point, this is a recommend watch all day long.
Absolutely. And again, if you just change the score, the music in it, this would have been, it's close already.
Yeah.
It would have been that much closer.
Yes.
So, I mean, music means that much in a movie. It really does, because it would have affected the fun. It could have brought the fun up 2 points. And while that may still not been quite enough, I mean, it's within striking distance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, our conclusions and our final score coming up next. So, week 8 of the Action Bowl, really a good, tight matchup.
It really was.
And this is one that really came down to the draw. If we had drawn one of Chow Yun-Fat's later action films, I think this very easily, it was already close enough.
Yeah.
It very easily could have gone the other way. Or if we had drawn one of Mel Gibson's slightly worse films, it could have easily gone the other way. But as it stands, for Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon, you scored it a 23, I scored it a 22, so that is an average score of 22.5. And for A Better Tomorrow, you
19?
scored it a 19, I scored it a 19. No math required on that one. So what it really all boils down to is, even though the battle on that was hard fought, the Action Bowl is going to be going fat-free. Join us!
Join us next time for our Weight Watchers episode.
So there you have it. The end of round 1. Chow Yun-Fat was knocked out by Mel Gibson. Join us next week where we do our round 2 preview and talk about the matchups that are coming up. Catch us then.
Through?
I haven't even started.